Thank you. All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our Unpacking Circular Economy webinar delivered by the wonderful Seaside Scavenge. My name is Caitlin Holford and I work as a Sustainable Waste Officer for Waverley Council. I would like to acknowledge the Bidjigal and Gadigal people who are the traditional custodians of the land on which we are gathering today. And I pay my respect to elders past, present and emerging. Since the start of the year, there has been lots happening at the strategic and policy level on the transition to a circular economy, which is why it's a really important time for us to engage with our community on this topic and delve into how we can all support this transition. With that, I will hand over to the wonderful Eleanor from Seaside Scavenge to get us going. Thank you, Eleanor.
Awesome. Thank you, Caitlin. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. Before we get started, I would also like to make an acknowledgement to the traditional owners of the land from our various locations, as I know we're meeting from a few different locations today. I'm joining this call on the lands of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation and would like to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging as well. I'd also like to acknowledge our changed and changing climate, the systems and behaviours that are driving this change, and the implications this will have for humanity and for our planet now and into the future. And if you'd like to make an acknowledgement in the chat, please do so. We'd love to hear where you're joining from. We know a lot of you will be Waverley locals, but I think there's a few joining from outside as well. Okay, so before we get started, I would just like to invite all of you to take a minute to take a big, refreshing breath and take a moment to settle in and get comfortable. We're so excited to be chatting to you today about the circular economy movement as a solution to the pollution and waste challenge that we're facing. We know that sometimes engaging in these topics about waste and pollution and climate change can be a bit overwhelming, particularly when the solution often feels out of our hands as individuals. But at Seaside Scavenge, we've seen the impact of individuals coming together as a community, supporting each other with their diverse set of skills and ideas and passion and enthusiasm to create change that can have a really significant impact. So we hope for this session today that it inspires you to see waste in a new light, continue learning about the circular economy solution, and most importantly, encourages you as individuals, as communities, teams, businesses, organisations to help Australia transition to a more sustainable future in whatever capacity you can. Cool, so just a couple of housekeeping things. If you have any questions or comments, pop them in the chat or say hello in the chat, and my colleague Janet will be aimed to answer as many as possible. We'll also have a bit of time at the end for a Q&A. And I hope you have your phones with you charged and ready to go, because there's going to be a couple of activities via phones that we'd love for you to get involved in. Okay, so what are we going to be talking about today? So today we're going to firstly introduce you to the Seaside Scavenge community, tell you a little bit about our story. Then we're going to talk a bit about the problem of waste, and then introduce you to the circular economy solution. There might be varying degrees of knowledge about this, but we hope we'll teach you something new today. We're also going to then deep dive into the 3 circular economy principles and talk about businesses that are doing really cool things in this space to see it in action. Then there's going to be a bit of a quiz throughout. Hopefully we'll have time at the end for a quick wrap up and some Q&A. Okay, so let me introduce you to the Seaside Scavenge team. As mentioned, my name is Eleanor and I'm the event manager at Seaside Scavenge. On the call today, we also have Janet and Belen. Our founder, AJ, is currently on some really well-deserved annual leave, so she's not joining today. But we also have another special guest, Sammy Campbell, who's joining us from Larrakia country, the region known as Darwin. And Sammy is an illustrator and graphic designer and co-founder of Coolamong Creative. And she's going to be capturing today's session as a digital sketch as well. And we had some trouble connecting her screen, but we'll be able to show you her progress, hopefully at the end, or if not, we'll send it out after as well. That's going to be a cool thing that you can take away from this session. Okay, so Seaside Scavenge story. So a few of you might be familiar with us, but we were founded by the wonderful AJ Link in 2015. You might not be as familiar with the story though. So AJ had been living in Chile for about a year And she was really quite confronted by the amount of plastic that was left lying along the Chilean coastline. So she started up a small program educating kids about the value of waste in partnership with Chilean councils. When she returned to Australia, however, AJ was quite shocked to realise that even though we have a very strong coastal culture, Australians were by and large quite unaware of the amount of trash being left on our beaches. So after attending a number of cleanups, what AJ realised was that what was missing was a really fun, inclusive and positive avenue to engage a broader audience within the community about this problem. And that's how the Seaside Scavengers Cash for Trash concept was born. So basically, when you attend one of our events, for every 10 pieces of litter that you collect, you're awarded with a trash token that can be used at our pop-up market of goods like clothes, books, toys, shoes that have been donated by the community. And in addition to this, we have some musicians that join who are powered by our bike generator. We have a number of stalls and waste-wise workshops that are run by some awesome local organisations, and businesses also get involved to donate prizes. So the whole formula of Seaside Scavenge, which is trash, tunes and treasure, is about giving litter value, litter and textile a real value in an inclusive and really fun atmosphere. So since that time, we've run about 90 scavenge events in 57 different communities around the globe, mostly in Australia, but a couple overseas as well. And these are not restricted to seaside. They can be lakeside, riverside, and a couple have even been snowside. And through these events, we've partnered with about 320 other awesome organisations and educated over 10,000 people about the value of waste as a resource. These events have also redirected about 15,000 kilograms of litter that was bound for the ocean. And through our Trash for Cash pop-up markets, we've given a second lease on life to about 11,000 kilograms of goods. So we've expanded the program into a couple of other different events as well. So we also have a Looped Festival, which you might have come to last year. This was Australia's first public-facing circular economy event. We also run a Spring into Scavenge program, which is a 12-week leadership and capacity building program that gives individuals the skills to run their own scavenge event in their local area. And we're also starting to run half-day team building days for businesses to reconnect with their staff in a really fun and impactful outdoor cleanup event. So if you haven't come along to one of our events, we hope that we can see you next year when we start running them again. Okay, so now we're going to just do a little bit of an activity to get us all thinking about waste and our consumption habits. So I hope you have your phones there. Please open up your phone, open your camera and scan the QR code to join our Mentimeter, which is just a polling tool. So I'm sure everyone's quite familiar with QR codes now. I'll give you a couple of seconds to join that. Okay, cool. So what is an item you have recently bought? So I know we haven't been going into the shops, but perhaps you've done a bit of online shopping over COVID. So you've got some boots, some pot plants, a mountain bike, very cool. Clothing, cold juice presser, oh, that's a good one. Some hats, seeds, maybe starting your own garden. Cool, a really diverse mixture of things to get us through lockdown. And if you miss the QR code, you can join Mentimeter by going to menti.com and using that code at the top there. Okay, so we'll go to the next question now. When you bought this item, did you think about what you would do at the end of that item's life? So when you no longer wanted it, did you have a think about what you would do with it? One for yes, a couple for no. Cool, a few people thinking about it, a few considering it, a few not thinking about it. Cool, be honest, no right or wrong answers. Thinking about it now, what do you think you'll do with that item when you no longer need it or no longer want it? And be honest, sell it on eBay, very cool. compost it, give it to a friend. Some great ideas. Give it away, bin it. Yep. Put it on Marketplace. Okay, so people are thinking about how they can give it a second lease on life. A couple are thinking they'll probably pop it in the bin, which is fair enough. Leave it in the cupboard. Yes, I'm sure we have many of those items that just end up growing dust in our cupboards. Cool, okay. So I hope that's getting you to start thinking about the topics that we're going to talk about today. And I suppose many of us are aware, you know, as society, we do have a pollution and waste problem, but maybe we are less aware of the scale of this problem, particularly when we're consuming lots of different things. So the National Waste Report in 2020 estimated that between 2018 and 2019, Australia generated 74.1 million tonnes of waste. And this is collected from households, governments, commercial and demolition sites. So it's from everywhere. But to put that in perspective, to carry this amount of waste, we would need to fill 3 million semi-trailers, which is enough to be parked around the Australian coastline, bumper to bumper, twice around. So it's a huge amount of waste that we're throwing out every year. And the National Waste Report shows that total waste generation is increasing. So for decades, most of our efforts to tackle waste and pollution have focused on how to manage items at the end of their life, how to dispose of them. So we can see from this graph that waste from 2018, about 60% of it was recycled, which is awesome. About 36% is going into landfill, and then a small amount is converted into energy, among a few other things. So while waste management services are really critical, obviously, for our society, and disposing of your waste correctly is really important, and thinking about giving a second lease on life is really important, relying on this method alone to manage our waste does have some limitations. So for example, landfill is really costly to manage, and it creates high levels of greenhouse gas emissions, which I'm sure you're familiar is contributing to accelerating climate change. Landfill also requires really strict management to prevent waste from affecting soils and waterways. And within Greater Sydney, it's expected that the landfill sites we currently have that accept household waste will reach capacity in the next 15 years. But most importantly, sending items to landfill means that valuable materials are being wasted and destroyed. And it means that more raw, finite materials must be extracted from the earth to meet our continually escalating consumer needs, which requires more energy and water to make these new materials and products. So what about recycling? Recycling is awesome because it does reduce the loss of valuable materials to landfill, and it saves energy needed to make something new. But it also has its limitations. For one, I'm sure we've all experienced a bit of confusion when it comes to recycling, and that's because recycling has changed a lot over the past few decades due to new technologies and new packaging, meaning correct recycling habits have to be continually changing as well. And recycling is different depending on the waste facilities, meaning that the rules of recycling change from council to council and state to state. So due to this confusion, anywhere between about 4 and 16% of recycling in the average household bin can be contaminated, simply meaning that the wrong item is being popped into the recycling bin. And this causes some issues down the line. Firstly, it just requires more resources to sort the materials at the facility, which can be a bit dangerous for workers and is more costly. And also contamination lowers the quality of recyclable materials. And furthermore, this data that we're talking about now doesn't actually capture litter either. So that's another problem. A few of the top offenders of recycling contamination include things like food and liquids. So food and liquids can cause damage to cardboard and paper to the point where it's no longer viable for resale. And sometimes in this case, the whole truckload of the recycling content needs to be sent to landfill because of that contamination. So really important to ensure food doesn't ruin your recycling bin. Single-use coffee cups are also a really big offender. So while you might think they can go into your paper recycling, they actually can't, because they have a lining of plastic on the inside of the cup, which prevents the liquid seeping through. So reusable cups are always key. And there's also options such as dropping them off at a Simply Cups collection unit. Soft plastics also cannot go into your curbside recycling bin because they can't be processed by a majority of the sorting machinery. So it's really important that you don't put your recyclable materials into a soft plastic bag and then pop it in. Not the right thing to do there, but the good news is you can tell whether the plastic should go into the yellow bin by doing a scrunch test. So if you scrunch your bit of plastic and it bounces back into its original shape, you can generally pop that into your curbside recycling bin. If you scrunch the plastic and it stays in a little ball, then it needs to go to through another avenue. So things like the Red Cycle drop-offs will accept your soft plastic. So that's a good tip to remember. Finally, textiles, they cannot go into recycling because they get tangled up in the sorting machinery. But again, there are other options, and we're going to talk about apparel a little bit later. Okay, so some tips to avoid recycling contamination while we're on the topic. Always check it before you chuck it. So if you're unsure about something, check with your local council website, or another really awesome website is Recycling Near You, which is Australia's most comprehensive recycling information service by Planet Arc, to help reduce some of the confusion. A good rule of thumb is that mixed or composite packaging is generally not curbside recyclable. However, there are a number of organisations that collect these hard to recycle items. For example, TerraCycle is a really good one to look up. Another good rule of thumb to remember is that items that are smaller than a credit card are usually not recyclable because they'll fall through the conveyor belts at the material recovery facility. However, there are other options. So for example, things like a bottle cap lid that can be popped into an old tin like this. You can just have it sitting under your sink. And when it's full, you can close the lid or scrunch the top, and then you can pop that into your curbside recycling bin. And you can also do this for soy sauce fish containers too. So it's good to just keep it simple when it comes to recycling. And if you're unsure, you can also check whether the packaging has the Australasian recycling labels. So these are different from the triangles with the number in them that relates to the type of plastic. These are a new labeling system that's gives a really clear indication of whether it goes into recyclable container, a drop-off location, or if it goes into your landfill. Okay, so what does this all mean? Well, as you can see, there are some limitations with the way that we're currently managing our waste. So what we want to talk about today is about shifting our thinking so that we're not just thinking about how we dispose of an item when we no longer want it. And the waste hierarchy triangle that you can see on the screen there shows us that the most preferable way to manage waste is to avoid it entirely. And this is because it has the lowest impact on the environment in terms of energy, water use, waste, and pollution. So this requires a bit of a rethink of our approach to resources, products, and services, and how we consume them. But the best part of this story is that someone, or quite a few people in fact, have worked out the solution for us. And that's what we would love to introduce you today, the concepts of the circular economy. Okay, so if you still have Menti on your phone, that's great. We're just going to take a quick pulse check to see how familiar you guys are with the circular economy. So if not, remember you can join using the code on the top. So tell us, how familiar are you with circular economy? Heard of it, but not sure what it is. Couple very familiar, awesome. I know a few of you who have joined who are very familiar. Have a good understanding, basic understanding, awesome. So I hope today, even those that have a very familiar understanding will get something out of a few of the examples we're going to talk through. Great, thanks everyone. Okay, so to give a really neat overview, we're going to show you a video. It's about 3.5 minutes. This video was created by the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, and it gives an awesome overview of circular economy, and then we'll deep dive into a bit more detail after it.
Living systems have been around for a few billion years and will be around for many more. In the living world, there's no landfill. Instead, materials flow. One species' waste is another's food, energy is provided by the sun, things grow, then die, and nutrients return to the soil safely. And it works. Yet as humans, we've adopted a linear approach. We take, we make, and we dispose. A new phone comes out, so we ditch the old one. Our washing machine packs up, so we buy another. Each time we do this, we're eating into a finite supply of resources and often producing toxic waste. It simply can't work long term. So what can? If we accept that the living world's cyclical model works, can we change our way of thinking so that we too operate a circular economy? Let's start with the biological cycle. How can our waste build capital rather than reduce it? By rethinking and redesigning products and components, and the packaging they come in, we can create safe and compostable materials that help grow more stuff. As they say in the movies, no resources have been lost in the making of this material. So what about the washing machines, mobile phones, fridges? We know they don't biodegrade. Here, we're talking about another sort of rethink, a way to cycle valuable metals, polymers, and alloys so they maintain their quality and continue to be useful beyond the shelf life of individual products. What if the goods of today became the resources of tomorrow? It makes commercial sense. Instead of the throw away and replace culture we've become used to, we'd adopt a return and renew one, where products and components are designed to be disassembled and regenerated. One solution may be to rethink the way we view ownership. What if we never actually owned our technologies? We simply licensed them from the manufacturers. Now, let's put these two cycles together. Imagine if we could design products to come back to their makers, their technical materials being reused and their biological parts increasing agricultural value. And imagine that these products are made and transported using renewable energy. Here we have a model that builds prosperity long term. And the good news is, there are already companies out there who are beginning to adopt this way of working. But the circular economy isn't about one manufacturer changing one product. It's about all the interconnecting companies that form our infrastructure and economy coming together. It's about energy. It's about rethinking the operating system itself. We have a fantastic opportunity to open new perspectives and new horizons. Instead of remaining trapped in the frustrations of the present, with creativity and innovation, we really can rethink and redesign our future.
Okay, so I've seen that video about 100 times, but every time I just love it. I think it gives such a great overview of this idea of circular economy. So just to summarize, the challenge that we're facing at the moment is that we've adopted a linear approach, which is eating into a finite supply of resources and often producing toxic waste. But what if the goods of today can become the resources of tomorrow? In addition to recovering and repurposing resources, the circular economy is about designing out waste and pollution and creating new consumer ownership models and retail models and building a system to reuse products. So this means more than just recycling. It requires a cultural and attitudinal shift. Okay, so I know that's a lot to absorb, but we're going to do a quick quiz now to see that you're getting some of the content. So please take out your phones again, open your camera, scan the QR code to join Mentimeter, or if you already have it open, that's perfect. We're going to have 5 questions now and another 5 later. If you get the answer correct and you are the fastest, you get more points, and the reward will be endless gloating points. So good luck for the quiz. I'll give you a minute to join. Cool. Okay, it looks like we've got a few. Give us a little love heart there if you're on, so we know you're joined. Okay. Cool, let's do the quiz. Whoop. Oh, sorry. I'll start again. There we go.
I think there's one. Oh, I think it's just saying, oh no, here we go. It's asking me to add my name and things. Not sure what's happening there.
Slight setback. Sorry, guys. Now you know the answer to the first question, so that will give you an update. Bit of an advantage. Belen, do we want to try it one more time? Oh, right. Oh, sorry guys, for some reason the Menti is doing its own thing today. So what we might do is we'll go back to the presentation and hopefully we can do the full quiz at the end. That's all right. We'll keep going through, and then now you know a couple of the answers already, so we'll see if we can do the full quiz at the end. Okay, so let's jump in to the principles of the circular economy. They are to design out waste and pollution, keep products and materials in use for longer, and regenerate natural systems. So you've got an overview of what circular economy means. Let's dive into the 3 principles and see these in action. Okay, so the first principle of the circular economy is about designing out waste and pollution. So did you know that actually 80% of waste and pollution can be prevented at the design phase of a product? This means that waste and pollution are the result of really specific decisions made early on in the product life cycle. So if we're able to shift our mindset to view waste as a design flaw, this will ensure that waste and pollution are not created in the first place. So what can this look like in action? You might have seen this product, the Husky Cup. It's a really neat design of circular economy in action. The founders of Husky were motivated by the fact that Australians consume more than 50,000 cups of coffee every half hour. This results in 60,000 kilograms of single-use cups going to landfill each year. And the reason they're going to landfill is because, as we talked about before, they're quite a hard item to recycle due to the plastic lining on the inside. So about 99.75% of single-use cups are not recycled. So what Husky wanted to do was create a completely closed-loop system that designed waste out of the coffee experience. And they do this in several ways that you can see on the screen there. So firstly, they have a technology, Husky Tech, which is basically a mixture of coffee husk and resin. So coffee husk is a waste material that's produced in coffee production. It doesn't have any nutrients and it generally goes to landfill. So they found a way to turn this into a resource to make their cups. They also have a Husky swap system for convenience mostly. So if you rock up to the cafe with your Husky cup and you realize it's got coffee left in it from the morning before, you can simply swap it with another Husky cup if the cafe is participating in this Husky swap program. So you never have to go without your Husky cup. And finally, they have a Husky loop system. So at the end of the cup's life, if it's broken or damaged, you can drop it off at a participating cafe and Husky will collect it and repurpose it. So it's a really neat product. We're not sponsored by them, I'll say, but do go and check them out. I have one myself that has my leftover coffee from this morning, and speak to your local cafe if you think they would be interested in the Husky Swap program. Okay, the second principle is about keeping products and materials in use for longer. So essentially, this is based on the idea of using products rather than using them up, and continually looking for ways to ensure resources do not end up in landfill. And an organisation that's making waves in this space is Apparel. So they're a Melbourne company, and they were inspired by the fact that the average Australian sends about 23 kilograms of textiles to landfill every year, which equates to about 500 million kilograms dumped by Australians. If we continued at this rate, we would have enough textiles dumped in landfill to cover the entire surface of Australia by 2030. And the craziest part is 95% of these textiles could be recycled or reused. So to address this problem, Apparel do three really cool things. Firstly, they partner with charities to redistribute quality clothing. Secondly, they partner with brands to repurpose textiles. But most importantly, they recycle textiles into new products. They collect them from individuals, shred them, recycle them into new mattress fillers, home insulation, and pet beds. And they're making a couple of other cool things like kids' sofas. So this is a really important service because a lot of the time people send textiles to Vinnies, but if these can't be used, then they'll be going to landfill. And charities in Australia send about 60,000 tonnes of unwanted textiles to landfill. So it's a lot of waste. So a good rule of thumb is if you wouldn't give your clothing to a friend, send it to Apparel. And if you're due for a closet clean out, go and check out their website. Okay, so the third circular economy principle is regenerating natural systems. And this principle focuses on the idea that we should not only aim to protect our environment, but actively improve it. And a really obvious way to regenerate natural systems is by starting in your own backyard. So a worm farm is a really cool thing to look into. It's a system that closes the loop on organic waste by recycling food scraps with the help of compost worms. The worms process this waste item and turn it into worm castings and worm tea, which is a cute way of saying that they eat the scraps and then produce worm manure and worm wee. But those worm castings and worm tea is full of really good nutrients. When you pour it on your plants, it can help restore the soil ecology, fight pests and diseases, and contribute to healthy plant growth. And worm farms are surprisingly easy to manage. I live in an apartment and I've got one in my garage, and I spend about 10 minutes a week looking after it. It's really easy. But if it's not your thing, that's fair enough. There are some other options like the Compost Revolution, which is a social venture that partners with councils across Australia to offer composting gear at subsidised prices. Or there's also a website called Share Waste, where you can sign up as a scraps donor, look on a map and identify people who will be happy to take your scraps for their own worm farms or compost or chook pens and that sort of thing. So this is a really great way to regenerate natural systems and help the environment for a few different reasons. Firstly, by separating your food waste, it's a great way to take stock of what you're throwing out, and it might make you become more aware of the food that you don't generally need to buy each week. And secondly, it's really important because it diverts food scraps away from landfill, which is really good because when food scraps go into landfill and it's buried under rubbish, it means that the microorganisms break down the food scraps in the absence of oxygen. And this results in a really high level of methane and greenhouse gases. And methane is actually about 34 times more potent than carbon dioxide. I've seen someone just in the chat said FOGO. FOGO is awesome if your council provides that as well. That's another great way to separate your food scraps. So if you're not currently separating your food scraps, have a think about the different ways that you can do it to start your new project. Okay, so just a quick reminder, the 3 principles of the circular economy are about designing out waste and pollution, keeping products and materials in use for longer, and regenerating natural systems. And you already have a couple of ideas about how you can start your journey on circular economy, but here are a few more to keep you going. So our top tip would be just continue learning about this stuff, continue exploring the world of circular economy. There are so many resources online, including on the Ellen MacArthur Foundation website and also on Planet Ark's ACE Hub. And by reading through stories about pioneers in this space, you'll be continually exposed to cool ideas and solutions that may be relevant to your life or the business that you work at or organization that you work at. Our second tip would be to conduct a waste audit. So sort through your litter over 1 week and look at what waste streams are most common in your home or in your office. And is there an opportunity to remove this waste stream, turn it into a resource, or find an alternative to avoid it altogether? And finally, we suggest that think more consciously about the items that you're purchasing and try to support brands that are adopting circular principles or regenerative principles. And there's some great ways you can do that. You can go and speak to the people at the Bower or look at websites like Banish or Good On You. So we know that sometimes it can feel like a bit of an overwhelming task, but there's no pressure to go zero waste straight away. Every small step that you take to reduce your waste is a step in the right direction. And the really exciting thing is there are so many organizations out there that are making it easy for you. And we showcase a lot of these on our socials every week and also in our monthly newsletter if you'd like to stay in the loop on those. Okay, so should we try the quiz one more time? Let's give it a go and see if we can do the full 10 questions. A little bit more pressure. Oh, I didn't think. We'll give Belen 1 second to see if she can get the quiz up and happening. Maybe we can just pause. If anyone has any question, you can pop it in the chat.
I was just thinking about some of those other reuse options or reusable models. One that I think about a lot is the batteries. So single-use batteries versus rechargeable batteries. So you're kind of eliminating the need to go to the shops and buy batteries when they run out because you can just pop them in the charger at home.
Yep, it's a good suggestion, Caitlin.
And we'll just see if this works again.
Diane, are you able to scan that QR code? Cool, Diane's on, that's good. All right, let's give it one more try. We'll give you a few more minutes to join and we'll see if we can do the quiz. So, as we said, correct answer gets points, and if you answer quickly, you get even more points. So let's see if this will work. I've got 9. There we go. All right. We're in business. Thanks for bearing with us, guys. Here we go. Thinking back to that waste report, in 2018, Australia created enough waste to fill how many semi-trailers? I think you already had a hint when we accidentally showed you the answer earlier. So we've got 14 more seconds. Have a bit of a think about it. How'd we go? Okay, cool. 3 million. Yep, 74.1 million tons of waste was a lot. Ooh, very close one. Who took the lead? Nice one, Rachel. Nick, one of our volunteers, Nick Kind. Well done, Nick. Okay, question 2. In 2018 to 2019, how much of Australia's waste was recycled? 40, 50, 60 or 70%? How'd we go? Cool, so it was 60% was recycled, about 40% went to landfill. Oh, well done, Beyonce down the bottom. Putting a ring on it. Rachel, still in the lead, well done. Got a few other contenders at the top there. Question number 3. What is the best way to manage our waste according to the waste hierarchy triangle? Reuse it, recycle it, avoid it, or burn it? Avoid it. Nice. Reusing it is also really good, but if we can avoid it in the first place, that is ideal. Well done. I've got a few top contenders here. It's pretty close. Rachel's still out in front. Can't catch her. Okay, question number 4. The linear economy is based on what? The take, make, bake model, reduce, reuse, recycle, take, make, replace model, or take, make, dispose model. The linear economy. 10 more seconds. Will Rachel still be out in front? Nice work. Take, make, dispose, the linear economy. How are we going? Oh, well done, Elle. Beatrice? Caitlin. Is that Caitlin from Waverley Council?
Just checking it works, guys.
Fair enough. The circular economy aims to do what? Design out waste, use things rather than use them up, encourage a return and renew culture, or all of the above. Thinking about the circular economy. Okay, 5 seconds. Well done, all of the above. Oh, one person perhaps got tricked. Who was that? Ooh, well done, Elle. Well done, Gons. Rachel's still out in front, but a close leaderboard. All right, let's continue. We'll do the 5 more questions to see who will reign as champion. Number 6. Okay, true or false? 80% of waste and pollution can be eliminated at the design phase stage of a product. True or false? 5 more seconds. Well done. That is true. So it's a huge amount. So there's lots of opportunity there to be designing out waste. Still some top contenders. Oh, 2 Rachels there. Jess was the fastest, coming in hot to the leadership board. Okay, 3 more to go. Husky closes the loop on the coffee experience by doing what? Designing out waste, keeping products in use for longer, or using waste as a resource, or all of the above. Well done. That was a bit of a trick question. All of the above. Oh, Gons, let it slip on that one. It's all right, still got a couple to make up. Rachel, can't be caught. 2 more questions. Apparel closes the loop on what waste item? Plastic, food, or textiles? Remember, they were a Melbourne-based company. They do a couple of cool things. What waste item? Well done, textiles. So you can send all of your clothes to them and they'll redistribute, repurpose, and recycle them. Okay, we've actually got 2 more questions now to go. Rachel's still going strong. Well done, Rachel. Composting is an example of which circular economy principle? Should be an easy one. Designing out waste and pollution, keeping products and materials in use for longer, or regenerating natural systems. Yeah, regenerating natural systems. I think it could be argued it might relate to a couple of the other principles as well, but that was the one that we talked about today. Who was the fastest that time? Marg, the fastest. Well done. Okay, last question. Here we go. Make it count. To successfully transition to the circular economy, we need to do what? Rethink our approach to products and services, prevent waste and pollution through design, shift to a return and renew culture, value our resources, or all of the above. Everyone's voted. Yay, nice one. Full marks. Okay, let's see who was the champion. Ooh. Looks like Elle was the fastest, but Rachel, a strong contender the whole way through. Well done, Rachel. You can collect your prize of eternal gloating. Cool, okay, a couple more questions. Thinking back to that item that we talked about at the beginning that you recently bought, how could you adopt circular thinking when buying an item like this in the future, or maybe even before you go to buy an item like this? So what are some alternatives, do you think? Give you a few minutes. Propagation, that's a cool idea. So yeah, maybe instead of buying the seeds in a packet, propagate from a neighbor or from some plants that you already have. That's a very cool idea. I do find propagation pretty tricky though. Doesn't always seem to work for me, but I'm sure there's a couple of tips you can YouTube as well. Produce my own food, awesome. Not buy it at all, it wasn't essential. even though that can sometimes be challenging, taking stock to consider, is this actually essential, is always really good. Maybe trade it somewhere else. That's a really cool idea. Facebook Marketplace is a great spot to be trading things. Get better at saving seeds, yep, for your produce. Awesome idea. Buy secondhand furniture instead of new. Research the packaging. That's a really good one. Know if you've been shopping online and you think it looks good from the surface level, and then when it arrives, it's layered in 7 layers of plastic. Maybe, yeah, look into that before buying something. Buy upcycled, always a great idea. So go and check out the Bower, go and check out some secondhand stores, look on Facebook Marketplace, as we already mentioned. Buy a secondhand bike or use a Lime scooter. I love the Lime scooters. I take them everywhere, particularly good around Waverley, up and down all the hills to have an e-bike. Cool, okay, awesome ideas, well done. Let's go to the next question. This is just to take a little bit of a pulse check about how you're feeling about some of the content now. Do you feel familiar with circular economy? A couple very familiar, that might be the crew that was already quite familiar, but hopefully a few more are feeling familiar. A few with a good understanding. Awesome, that's what we like to see. Great. Thanks so much. I'll give a few more seconds, a couple more to submit their answers. Okay, let's go to the last one. And this is just for us. We'd love to get your feedback on the session. I know there were some tech issues today, but hopefully you can look past those. But let us know what you think about the session. I'll give you a few moments to do that. Cool, okay. So I hope you've had a few moments to do that. We're nearly out of time. So just one more thing. Before we open it up for a couple of questions and a bit of a wrap up, we would love if you could scan this final QR code. It's going to pop a reminder in your calendar to fill out a survey in 2 weeks' time about your experience with this session. And also if you've been thinking about some of these ideas in those 2 weeks. This is really helpful for us to improve our session and also demonstrate our impact so we can keep running sessions and help the war on waste. So we would really appreciate if you could take just 3 minutes to do that survey in 2 weeks' time. Okay, great. So please do stay in touch with us. We'll send out a link to download the tips and tricks that we've talked about today. Check out our website for a couple upcoming events. We'd love to see you actually in person at a few events in the future. And now we have about 5 minutes to open up to questions. So you can either submit the questions via Mentimeter there, or as well, you can pop it in the chat and we can open it up. But thank you so much for joining. Cool. So let's see, does anyone have any questions about some of the content today or any comments they'd like to contribute or share?
So we've got one in the Q&A. Where should I go to buy a worm farm?
A worm farm. Well, I bought my worm farm on Facebook Marketplace. So that was secondhand, which was a bit of a bonus. Otherwise, that website we were talking about, the Compost Revolution, they partner with councils and they give discounts on this kind of compostable gear. So you can check out that as well. Sometimes if you just type in worm farm into Google, you can do it that way. But I think it's always good to check out Facebook Marketplace first, because one, it will be secondhand, and two, it's generally cheaper. So that's a good one. Cool. Yeah, Nick, so with plastic recycling, it's always important to make sure it's clean. Yeah, it's generally best to try and get the food and liquid out of your recycling before you pop it in the recycling bin. Just improves the quality of the recyclable material down the line. Yeah, so the bottle tops, this is a cool tip. So bottle caps, tops. They can't be thrown into your recycling bin because they're too small. They're smaller than a credit card, so they'll fall through the belts at the material recycling factory. So a great tip is to pop it into a container of the same material. Fill that up. I just have this sitting under with my trash or under my sink. And when it's filled up with a number of your bottle lids, you can either close the lid or scrunch the top, and then you can pop that into your yellow bin and it will be recycled. And you can also do this with the soy sauce little fish packets too. You can pop that into same plastic, a bigger container, and they can be recycled. Cool. Any other questions? Who would accept old runners? Great question, Nick. So Up Apparel that we talked about before that accept the textile waste, they also accept shoes, which is really cool. So basically with apparel, you can go onto their website, you purchase a box essentially, which they'll deliver to you. You can do your clean out, so maybe do it with your household and split the cost, and then they'll pick it up or you can send it back to them. And you also get a discount on some of their recycled socks online, which is pretty cool. Oh, and Janet's saying Rebel Sports also accepts old shoes. So that's cool. Okay, from Gons, what do you guys think about impact individual versus residential? How do you think this model could be scaled to industrial space? So are you talking about recycling there? So I think a lot of businesses and industries are identifying that waste is becoming a risk in light of consumer pressure, escalating regulations. Hopefully we'll have a commitment to net zero soon. So I think businesses are looking for ways that they can improve their efficiencies so that they reduce their externalities like pollution and waste. And this also has an economic benefit for them too, because they're not wasting. Also looking for organizations that might buy their waste. So for example, with Husky, they found opportunity to turn coffee husks into their resource. So if you're a coffee production facility, that is a great partnership for them to get rid of their waste, but also for it to become a resource for another business. Blogs or books you could go to read about circular and shared economy. So the ACE Hub is a great place to start. Australia's Circular Economy Hub run by Planet Arc. And I think we have Maddie on the line too, who can tell you a bit more about it. They're running a number of awesome webinars, but they have a lot of Australian specific resources about circular economy. So check out the ACE Hub. They run a lot of great webinars. They've got a lot of awesome case studies. And our go-to for the global research is the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. So that's a really good one as well. Old cassette tapes and CDs, how to recycle. That's a really good question because obviously they have a lot of different components, so they wouldn't be able to go into your yellow bin. Or check out TerraCycle to see if they do it as a first point of call. TerraCycle do a lot of hard to recycle items. Maybe check them out. Cool, well, we've just hit one. Oh, there, and Nick's also said Officeworks. Great, thanks, Nick. Yep, so TerraCycle for CDs and cassettes and e-waste. Great, we've just hit 1 o'clock and doesn't look like there are too many more questions coming through. So I think we could probably wrap up there. Caitlin, what do you think?
Sounds good to me, thank you. Yes, a lovely big thank you to Eleanor and the rest of the Seaside Scavenge team for their time and their effort in putting this together for us. And thank you to everyone for participating on the Mentimeters. Those are really cool and like nice little bit of competition to have to get the circular economy brain in action. So yes, thank you again. Please make sure you stay in touch. And if you have any questions about circular economy, or if there's any other particular questions you have about waste and recycling in Waverley Council, please get in touch and we'll include our mail in the follow-up email as well.
Awesome. Thanks for having us, Caitlin, and thank you everyone so much for joining. I really enjoyed the session today. Cool.
Great. Alrighty. Thanks, everyone. Have a great one.
Bye.
Bye.